Hello everyone, my name is Peter Schaknat. I am the Managing Director of Schaknat Elektronen GmbH, and today we are optimizing a Concorde Centurion 1100 GSI. A quick overview of today's procedure. We are now going to optimize the new motorhome. It's built on a Mercedes-Benz Actros chassis. Today, as usual, we'll be doing an initial measurement, optimization, and a final measurement, again using the new Schaknat app with the dongle. My colleague, the other one, will be supporting me again today with securing the vehicle on the test bench. A few quick key facts. This is a Concorde Centurion, as you can see for yourselves, 1100 GSI, which means an 11-meter vehicle length and a wheelbase of 5.50 meters. As you can also see, my test bench, well, I wouldn't say it's reaching its limits, but as I said, it's still a relatively long chassis. So I'm curious to see what its base performance is. Actros OM471 engine, 12.8 liters with 480 horsepower and 2,300 Newton meters of torque. Original torque. And this is already the latest emission standard, Euro 6E, so it also features the new particulate filter system, which is newly included as well. We will now also optimize the PowerChef 3 transmission, engine and gearbox again using our app. We'll show that very briefly from the inside as well. I'll quickly show you one or two features of this motorhome. We've already optimized several motorhomes for this customer. This one is also brand new. That's why you can see it's a beautiful vehicle from the back as well. And in terms of design, Concorde has really done something special here. So I really like this vehicle a lot. As you can see, for example, in the back, it also has a rear garage. There's a smart car right inside, and we can open it up very quickly so people can get a good look at it. You can go around to the side here. You can go ahead and press this button, and as you can see, the garage will open up at the back. So you can see there's really a lot of space in the back, the 11 meters in length. I also have many customers who stay abroad for longer periods, and nowadays they have rear garages and things like that installed so they can stay mobile on site. You can see here there's actually space inside for a smart car. The best thing is that you can zip around the city in a smart anyway. Well, as you can see back here, unfortunately the customer doesn't have a trailer hitch. Now we also have to see how to secure it with straps. Andre will take care of that, he's helping me now. Andre will check down here and secure the axle below again with the hydraulic cylinder in the pit. We're also looking at the differential now to see where we can secure it. But as you can see here, regarding the material, it's all lightweight construction, so you can't attach anything just anywhere. Alright, then I'd say let's get started. Andre will secure me, and then we'll see each other again at the initial measurement. We did the initial measurements in four-wheel drive. As you saw with the long wheelbase, we powered the rollers again. Using our hydraulics. That also looks pretty cool. It's also nice for the customer to see. I'll quickly show you the diagram on the monitor. You can see it up here. We've now done the initial measurements. We did 3 initial measurements. Down here you can see the RPM, which ranges from 800 all the way up to 1800 revolutions. And now you can see here the lower curve is again the torque. And the upper curve is again the kW and horsepower converted. The truck is supposed to have an original 2,300 Newton meters and 480 horsepower. The customer had already told me beforehand that he feels the truck is a bit sluggish. So the motorhome in general just drives very sluggishly. And in the past, we already optimized an Attego for him. He said that one ran great, was super economical and shifted really well. And that is exactly why he's here again today. It is now confirmed that the available torque in the missing state is just under 170 Newton meters. It may only have 20 horsepower, but ultimately the torque is what really matters in this situation. So you can see it down here as well. It rises, holds its torque relatively early and for quite a while, and then at 1,450 it starts to drop off sharply. You can see it here in this area. This is where it should actually have its maximum, where it should actually be at 170 Newton meters or higher. We're going to compensate for that now with the software. We'll flash it again right away using the app. But just as the customer already suspected, it's really just missing a few Newton meters. And most of the time, customers feel that it's just not performing as well as it should. And that's partly due to the Euro regulations. With Euro 6e, everything becomes more sluggish. The system, the transmission also become more sluggish. And yes, many people have already said that they feel the torque just isn't what it used to be, which we've confirmed here again. Now we're going into the motorhome and flashing it via the app. I'll do that together with the others now, and then we'll see each other inside. So now we're going to optimize this beautiful piece. You can see the equipment here. I can see the sleeping area in the back and then the bathroom in between. You can see the features for yourself. Concorde is very, very high quality, so it's really beautifully made, even in terms of workmanship. Now I'll just sit down here in the comfort chair. He hasn't had a motorhome with such good equipment before. Very nice. All right, we programming via the app. The other guy will do that now. I'll just explain a few things about it. The other guy plugged in the OBD connector at the bottom, started the app, and again, it's always the same principle. Turn on the ignition, plug in the adapter, and then start the app. That's what the other guy is going to do now. Now he's selecting Mercedes-Benz. The ignition is already on. Then we can open the adapter settings. Now he's connected the adapter. Then he goes back into the app. You can see here, he's already pulled up the VIN and everything. Now, if you look up here towards the top right-hand corner of the screen, you can add the vehicle, which we've already done. You can always see the customer's name and the vehicle specifically. We've already set that up now. Then you swipe down again. As I said, with the Concorde, we always give you the option to flash 2 power levels from the engine control unit. Okay, so now he is heading over to the engine control unit. Now, as you can see here, we have already stored the information for both the transmission system and the engine's power. With the eco optimization, we always have 200 Newton meters of torque for the models, and with the power variant, 300 Newton meters. The customer would like to test the power variant, the 300 Newton meters, which we will also see on the test bench from the measurement. Now we're going to flash the engine first. It's always important that you follow exactly what the app tells you to do. Now it tells you to turn off the ignition. And then turn the ignition back on. It's becoming increasingly important, especially with the Actros or the newer models, to use the second ignition stage, otherwise it won't recognize it. Exactly, then it's important to confirm again. And then it's very important during flashing, I've mentioned this often in other videos as well, not to answer phone calls if your phone rings, not to walk away from the truck so that the flashing process completes cleanly. Because one thing is clear. If the process is interrupted while writing, the vehicle simply won't start afterwards. Of course, we always have this recovery mode, so we can reflash it, we can flash it again, and thankfully nothing has ever happened so far, but obviously you want to avoid any mistakes. That's why it's always important. It only takes 5 to 6 minutes, and in those 5 to 6 minutes, it's best to just leave your phone alone and let the flashing process finish. Now we've optimized the engine. Now we're going back into the engine control unit, and as you can see, it's always important, like I always say, because the transmission is also important, that we optimize both the engine and the transmission. Now we're going to optimize the transmission for eco mode. That goes pretty quickly, as you can see. It's already done, the green check mark is back, and now it's switching back again. It's always important, I always say, from the power variant to the performance variant to the eco variant, because people always ask me how they should set up the transmissions in relation to each other. I always like it when I have the torque available and then set the transmission to eco so that it shifts up early. That way the vehicles also save fuel. Because you often have the problem, especially when coming out of a roundabout, that the vehicles don't really get going at low speeds if they shift up too early, since the eco mode generally tries to upshift early. With the increased torque, we are also able to save fuel because when it shifts up, it doesn't fall into a power gap, but instead immediately has torque available again, allowing it to upshift much earlier. Now we'll go ahead and click on the TTCs in the top right. There you can see the error memory, and at the bottom we can read out all the error codes again. We have CAN bus errors everywhere in there. the customer is still having problems with the radar sensors, and those errors will remain active for now. Now let's go ahead and reset the error memory. Exactly, then it deletes them all. Then we go back again. That completes the optimization. Then we go back to the main menu. When we see the scan for Mercedes and Volvo again, unplug the adapter. Afterwards, turn it off once. The vehicle. Then really start it once to make sure everything starts up cleanly, that there are no errors, and then we'll take a look at the baseline measurement. We've now done the baseline measurement. Let's take a look at the graph together. The car was great to measure, even with the long wheelbase. It runs absolutely perfectly on the test bench. Let's look at the values. Previously we had 2,131 Newton meters stock, and now we have 2,458 Newton meters, so about 2,460 Newton meters. That's almost 330 Newton meters of torque. You can see the peak power. Originally it had 464, and now we have 482. Let me quickly explain this, so we can probably save ourselves some comments on the posts. That's always the crucial point. People always ask about the horsepower, but as he said many times, the horsepower is totally irrelevant, because up here, you can see the red line. Up here is where we measure the peak power, and that's the nice thing about the optimization. We have the peak power up here at 17 to 1800 RPM, but no one cares about that. No one drives there anyway. So what's important is actually down here in this range. You can see it now. We have significantly more torque, again up to about 1450 to 1500, and then it drops back toward the stock values. So you can see from 1700 RPM on, it's basically back in the original range, and that's the nice thing. It's cleanly optimized because we don't make huge changes to the peak power at the top. We're also fully within the factory tolerances. So it's supposed to have 480, now it has 482, but it has the torque. Actually, as you know from experience, the 510 Actros has 2,500 Newton meters. The 530 in the 12.8 liter series OM471 engine has 2,600 Newton meters. So even with this setting, the truck will never have a problem. We're also 100% within the emission standard target. So for me, it's actually perfect like this. You can also see from the curve, this area here, I'd say up to 1200 or 1300. So between 800 and 1300, that's really where the truck operates. And that's where you save fuel. Also with the shifting, if the transmission has more tolerance in terms of torque, it can shift much more smoothly. Especially in roundabouts, which customers often complain about, where the truck randomly shifts gears back and forth, we can completely eliminate that with this. You can see a perfect result, nice torque at the bottom, peak power almost untouched, and now we're operating within the stock torque range. A very quick explanation about this as well. At the bottom I measured torque, the two curves represent torque, and as the RPM increases, the kilowatt output also rises, which I can then convert to horsepower. So up here, I have high exhaust temperatures, and it's always important to me to keep things closer to stock in this range. That way the engines can't get damaged, and as I said, I'm perfectly satisfied with the optimization. We've reached the end of our video on the engine and transmission optimization of our Concorde Centurion. I'm always really happy about this. The customer has now had their third motorhome optimized with us. So I think that speaks for our company, that we always try to do our work as well and as perfectly as possible. That's why we use the test bench, the Euro measurement and all of that. That's why we've invested a lot, and we're happy that customers keep coming back. As you know, we also have our Hugo Boss Hofbaum for our own motorhome. As I said, people with motorhomes really love it. The driver doesn't know it yet, but I'm just going to include him now. The customer gets the app along with the dongle, with the adapter again, and with the updates. I've explained that to him, and we've just done the training. Now the customer will go and test it again to see how he manages with the fuel consumption. The vehicle itself has an empty weight of approximately 16 tons. So even in this case, it's always like this. People say it already has 480 horsepower. but you just underestimate it with the Euro 6E standard. Then there's luggage, and in the back there's also the smart car. All of that adds weight, and that makes the vehicle sluggish and increases fuel consumption. And that's why optimization is always very, very interesting for these large chassis. Sure, you could say that people who can afford motorhomes don't care about fuel costs, but actually it's the opposite. All the people with motorhomes can tell me exactly what their fuel consumption is. And they really do pay attention to consumption because, of course, every liter of fuel you don't have to spend is something you just don't do. If you're interested in this topic of engine and transmission optimization, feel free to check out our website at www.schaknat.de. You can email us, or you can also call us directly. We're happy to advise you over the phone as well. I had a great time again today. Take care. See you next time. Thank you. Bye.